10 Game Day, or any of the game days really, were published by Fremont Die Consumer Products Incorporated, and there is no designer credited with the design. You can probably guess based off of the title alone, this is a two-player football game where you're going to be playing cards as the offense and the defense, matching them up to run plays, to move the ball up and down the field, to try to get to the opponent's end zone in order to score. I had low expectations going into this game because sports are one of the hardest themes to put into a board game. It is possible for them to be done, but it is very rare that they actually work out well. Most of them tend to be either complete garbage or mediocre at best. Do these games fall into that category? Let's find out. I found the theme for the game to slightly work. When you play a card and your opponent plays a card, you flip them over, you compare the two, that's the play that's running. That can kind of represent what the game of football is. It doesn't really come out in the mechanisms that much. It's more of an imagination type of thing, where you can imagine one side in a huddle, they pick the play, they run it, and then whatever happens, happens. That a little bit is represented in here. Also, kicking a field goal does have a little bit of thematic sense to it. You basically are rolling a die, and whatever you roll, you compare that with a chart, and that determines whether you made it or not. It can bring out a little bit of theme because the closer you are to the goalpost, the better your chances are of actually making it, although it is always possible to miss. That does make a little sense thematically, because the closer you are to the goalpost in this game, the higher your chances are of actually rolling the numbers you need. That being said, there is one aspect of the card play in this game that causes such a disconnect from the theme that it almost rips the core premise of football out of the theme entirely, but I'll get to that later. The components for this game, for the most part, are fine. I do like the magnetic board as well as the ball and the first down marker. That way, if somebody accidentally bumps the board or hits the table, you're most likely not going to lose track of where you were. The plastic clear tokens are fine, and they hold together well. They do allow you to see through them so you can see what the score is and what the downs are. The cards, though, are, in my opinion, really low quality. They're very thin cards. They bend really easily. If you're not careful, you can end up actually folding the cards, which basically ruins them. The artwork also is basically nothing. It's basically just a whole bunch of colors and a bunch of text to represent what the plays are. But on a positive note, the text is, for the most part, easy to read. If you are colorblind, though, you might have a difficult time with the yellow and tan-ish bars over the white text. That could be a problem. The timeout cards are just white tees over a grass texture. Yes, it is easy to see, which is a good thing, but it really adds no appeal to the game whatsoever. Obviously, the best part about this game are the magnets of the individual teams. That obviously works well. The magnets do stick to the board. You can mix and match them, which is fine. But as I said before in the tutorial, these magnets are just here for branding purposes only, and I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to want to buy this just to get these magnets. Overall, the component quality is fine. The game is incredibly easy to teach. All it is just one player plays one card from the offense, one player plays one card from the defense. You take the two cards, you flip them over, you match the results of the cards, and then that's the play that runs. And then you do whatever the play says. Very easy to understand, very easy to teach. In terms of kickoff, you just flip a card over. That's how many yards the ball is kicked, and that's where you start. For a punt, you flip that same card over. That's how many yards the ball was punted. In terms of a field goal, just roll a die and match the results of the chart based on where you are. To kick an extra point, you just roll a die, and if you roll anything but a 6, you made it. Overall, very easy to teach, very easy to understand. You would just sit down, just play card, just play football. I do like the concept of the gameplay where you take a card, your opponent takes a card, you flip them over, compare results, you run that play, and you do it over and over again. That makes it really easy, like I said before, but because of the way of the yards available on the offensive cards, it creates a massive problem. Remember when I was talking about earlier about the thematic disconnect? This is going to be the thematic disconnect that I was talking about. because of how the yards are listed on the offensive cards, there is really no point to keeping track of the downs. As you can see from the cards that I'm showing you, the lowest amount of yards that you can gain on a down is 10 yards. And if you've watched football or even played football, you know that 10 yards does not happen on every single down. There are some plays that go 2 yards, some that go 6 yards, some that goes 3, some even lose 4, some lose 5, some lose whatever. Now I understand why they didn't go very specific with the numbers, because that made the game a lot harder to manage, and they did to simplify the game, which is fine. But because the lowest amount of yards you can gain is 10, then why should I even keep track of the downs in the first place? Because to gain a new set of downs, you go 10 yards. But if you can go 10 yards constantly, that basically renders the downs pointless. Because for you to be forced to punch, that means your opponent would have to match the card that you played 3 times back to back. In all the times that I have played this game, I only have had 2 instances where somebody had to punt. Usually in this game, I found that the drives ended up either going all the way for a touchdown or ending because of a fumble or an interception. I also find the luck factor a little bit absurd. The idea of having a 1/6 chance of missing an extra point, that does not happen. The possibility that you can end up getting stuck with nothing but one type of play in your hand, and the possibility that your opponent could be stuck with nothing but the very play that they need to counter you. So you could be stuck going run, 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 and your opponent just has those cards able to stop you every single time. There is a little bit of mitigation with the luck with the timeouts. The timeouts basically make both players discard their hands and then redraw, which is a good thing because that does give you a chance to clear your hand out of all the same cards. But at the same time, there's also a chance that you could just draw the same hand of the same play back up again. And if you know football, you know you can't take 2 timeouts back to back. So as a result, you can end up taking a timeout, discarding your hand, only to draw back up a hand of cards that you don't even want. And then there's the other extreme where the defenses literally cannot stop each other for the entire first half or even for the entire game. You could go an entire game not having the right cards you need to stop your opponent's plays. So you could basically just run over each other the entire time. You're basically be playing a football game where the defense just took a nap the whole time. There's also not a ton of replay value here. Yes, you can sort of rearrange the magnets onto the field to basically set up different matchups between various teams, but the magnets don't add anything to the actual gameplay. And speaking of the gameplay does end up feeling a bit the same with every single playthrough. Yes, there is going to be some variation of the plays of the cards, but at the end of the day, it's still just play cards, reveal, do whatever it does. Overall, I did not find myself to be a fan of this game. I do not hate this game. I want to make that clear. I did not hate this game. I thought this was okay at best. That being said, I do think that if you are a football fan or you know someone who's a football fan and you are looking for a very simple, very light game, don't need to think too much about what's going on, you just want to sit down, you want to play football, this is a game that you might want to look into. It might be exactly what you're looking for. I personally am just not a fan of it. I'm going to give the Gameday Trilogy a 5 out of 10. So those are my thoughts on the Gameday Trilogy. With all that said, I want to know, what are your thoughts on these games? Do you love these games? Do you hate them? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. If you want to know my thoughts on more games or you want to learn more, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more tutorials, reviews, and unboxings. Thank you all as always so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.